Hi, this is Lisa. Thank you for joining me. I'm back today with a project where I'm going to do some Copic colouring on acetate, and I'm delighted to be part of the flower challenge for this month. I was asked to be a guest designer, and the theme for the challenge is to use your favourite floral. So I'm going to use Clearly Besotted to You with Love, and I'm delighted to be joining Aileen and her team for this challenge. So I'm going to start off with a sheet of acetate. I'm just giving you a quick snapshot of the stamp there. This is one of my favourites. I'm not actually sure that you can get it anymore, but I'm sure you'll have something similar in your stash. So first of all, I'm going to stamp the image onto some heat resistant acetate, as I'm going to be doing some heat embossing on it. So I prepare the acetate with my anti-static bag, and I'm adding some Versamark ink to my stamp, and I'm just going to press that down onto the acetate. It's really difficult, obviously, to see the acetate in the misty. So now I'm going to take some Wow Superfine, I think it's the Bright White Opaque powder. I'm going to list all supplies over on my blog anyway, so you'll be able to see what I've used. And I just add that to the image, and I'm making sure that I flick off as much of the powder as I can. And then I heat up my heat gun so it's really hot. You want to get it as hot as possible before you bring it to the acetate. Although it's heat resistant, you don't want to get any warping, so I make sure that it's very, very hot first before I start to bring it to the actual acetate. Now I've left this bit of footage in. To do colouring on acetate, you really need to apply your Copics to the back of your image, and I actually applied my Copics to the front of my image, and I didn't realise until I turned it over to actually do the colouring on the back that I had done it wrong in the first place. So I have left it in to show you that actually, although you can colour on the back of your image, it isn't the end of the world if you make an error and you colour on the front like I did. I mean, you don't want to spoil your markers, but it doesn't seem to have done mine any harm. So what I'm doing is I'm just applying a couple of colours, this time successfully to the back of the image. And because it's a non-porous medium, they won't actually sort of sink in and blend as such. So you have to just apply them, and I keep flicking my image back over onto black, as it's actually easier to see what my colouring is looking like. So I only use two colours. It really isn't worth using any more than that. And you can see they look quite good. I mean, if you look close up, you can see lines a little bit on it, but it actually does look still quite pretty. So I'm taking two different pinks, and I'm just literally going to apply little bits of colour into each part of the image. Again, this time I did remember to turn my acetate over, so I am colouring on the back of the image here. And you don't have to be really precise, because you can kind of hide behind the white lines as such. It doesn't really notice if you go over. As you see, when I flick it over, it still looks like I've coloured within the lines, even if I've gone over slightly at the back. So literally just adding a darker shade and a lighter shade within each of the petals. And I keep, as I say, turning it round to just have a quick check to see what it looks like. And most of the time it's easier to do that against the white, but at the beginning I was putting the image against the black because my eyes weren't so good, so I was kind of alternating between the two to see how it looked. And I'm just going to finish off the colouring here. It's very, very basic. There's nothing special at all about it, but I have done this technique a couple of times before, and I do think it looks really, really pretty at the end. And I thought for a change I'd use this stamp, as it's a really good size for the final card. So I'm going to take a die by Little Inca Designs. This is the quilted stitched pattern die, and I run it over some fog cardstock from Simon Says Stamp because I just thought that would add a bit of extra interest to the front panel. And then I take a small circle die from Spellbinders to cut my aperture in the cardstock. So as you can see, I'm just pulling it off really carefully here. You can rip your cardstock if you're not careful. So I've turned the cardstock over and I'm just applying some double-sided adhesive because I'm going to now attach the acetate, coloured acetate panel to the back. So I'm just going to take this off, and I'm not going to show you all of this because you really don't need to see that. So I'm lining the image up here, and as you can see, I'm going to actually just press the cardstock down onto the acetate, but I decide to pop the black behind it again because I think it's much easier to see what you're doing. And excuse me for my head being in the way, but you really do need to get over the image just to make sure you've got it all lined up properly. So once it's down, I cut off the excess acetate, and then I'm just going to apply some double-sided foam tape to the back, and I'm very liberal with this as I want to make sure that this stands up well in the post. So now I'm going to remove the tape, and I'm just going to pop this down onto an A2 panel. This is Nina Solar White, £110, and I've scored it at 5.5. And then I take my set of sentiments, and this is the Clearly Besotted Many Messages, and I use this sentiment set all the time. It's really useful. They are small, the greetings, but there's absolutely loads of them, and you can nearly always find what you want in there. So I just stamp that in VersaFine Onyx Black onto some white cardstock, and then I'm just going to pop it up with a little bit of foam tape, and then I add a tiny bit of wet adhesive to the right because that part of the sentiment is actually going to lie flat onto the card front and the rest of it will be popped up. So I'm just lining it up there, and I press it down, and then I think it looks slightly wonky, so I grab my T-square ruler, and I'm just, apologies for my head again, lining it up against the T-square ruler to make sure that it's actually straight. And I've got some sequins here from Studio Katia. They're the Majestic Fusion sequins, and I really love them. I use them all the time. They're just a great set of different size sequins. So I'm just going to apply a few of those to my card, and that finishes my card for today. So I hope that you like the card. As I say, I left the error in because I wanted you to see that actually it didn't end up looking too bad anyway, and I really did like the result in the end. Thank you once again to Aileen and the team over at the Flower Challenge for having me. It really was an honour to be joining you. And all supplies are going to be listed over on my blog, and I will link that in the description below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.